The baby shower was perfect. Everything else was a lie. The backyard was glowing with strands of fairy lights draped through willow branches. Soft jazz floated from hidden speakers. And every table was set with linen runners, vintage glassware, and jars of dried lavender. A custom wooden sign read, "Baby Grant," nestled in a bed of pampas grass and eucalyptus. It looked less like a party, and more like a curated editorial shoot. There was only one problem. She wasn't pregnant. I just didn't know that yet. Chloe Madison and I had been best friends since 7th grade. We've seen each other through failed relationships, job losses, even one ill-advised tattoo we promised never to speak of again. To say I trusted her would be an understatement. She was more than a friend, she was part of my foundation. So when Chloe called me with the news that she was expecting, I didn't ask questions. I cried. I showed up. I helped plan the gender reveal, shopped for baby clothes, even spent 2 months knitting a dusty rose baby blanket I was embarrassingly proud of. Marcus, my husband, was proud of it too until that day. He's an OB-GYN with 15 years of experience and an intuition that rarely fails him. And as we walked into that impossibly perfect garden, with Chloe glowing in a silk wrap dress and cradling her belly like it held the moon, Marcus leaned in and said 5 words I'll never forget. "Something's off. We need to leave." I didn't listen. It wasn't until days later that I stumbled across something she never meant for anyone to see. That I overheard a conversation not meant for my ears. And that what I uncovered would shatter everything I believed about friendship, loyalty, and the kind of lies we tell when we're desperate to be loved. If you've ever trusted someone more than you trusted your instincts, this story is for you. Chloe opened the sliding glass doors just as we reached the patio steps. She looked radiant, glowing skin, glossy curls, a pale lavender wrap dress that hugged her just right. Her hands cradled the bump like it was something fragile and holy. And for a moment, I felt foolish for ever questioning anything. "Lauren," she called out, her smile wide, arms opening. I handed Marcus the gift basket so I could hug her properly, but she stepped to the side, offering only a light squeeze around the shoulders. "Careful," she said, laughing. "Can't risk squishing the little one." Her tone was playful. Her posture, slightly turned, guarded. Marcus noticed too. His hand lingered on my lower back longer than usual as we stepped inside. Not protective. Alert. Inside, the house had been transformed. The kitchen island had been cleared and replaced with a display of lavender cupcakes, mini quiches, and glass pitchers of elderflower lemonade. White and beige balloons floated in clusters along the ceiling. In the corner, a chalkboard sign read, "Welcome baby girl Grant Purple Heart," with little hand-drawn rattles and hearts. A woman in a flowing dress passed us with a tray of hors d'oeuvres. "Is that a caterer?" I whispered. Chloe beamed. "Oh, she's actually from Everbloom Events. They offered to sponsor part of the shower for promo. Can you believe it?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Very generous," he said flatly. He wasn't being rude, just controlled. He always got like that when something didn't sit right. I tried to shake it off. Chloe gave us the grand tour, from the decorated photo booth in the living room to the gift table stacked nearly to the fireplace mantel. Then she led us upstairs. "I want you to see the nursery mock-up," she said. "It's not finished yet, but you'll get the idea." The nursery was extravagant. Pale mauve wallpaper with gold leaf trees. A hand-painted mural of baby deer and bunnies, a white wooden crib still in plastic, and a rocking chair positioned by the window with a cashmere throw. It felt more like a magazine spread than a room someone was preparing to raise a child in. Marcus stood near the dresser, pretending to admire a plush toy. "Where's the diaper station?" he asked casually. Chloe blinked. "We're waiting on the changing table. Shipping delays." I nodded, but something in her voice felt rehearsed, like she'd anticipated the question. Back downstairs, the party was in full swing. Laughter floated around the backyard. Women clinked glasses of sparkling cider, and a professional photographer darted around snapping candids. I tried to relax. I really did. But Marcus had gone quiet again. He was standing at the edge of the yard, staring at a man near the mimosa table. A man I didn't recognize. Middle-aged. Salt and pepper hair, wearing a name tag that read Dr. Harmon. He wasn't mingling. He was watching Chloe. "Friend of yours?" I asked Marcus, joining him. He gave the faintest nod. "He's an OB. Same hospital as me. So, maybe he's her doctor." Marcus didn't look away from the man. She said she's going to St. Joseph's. He's Mercy General. I swallowed. Maybe she switched? He didn't respond. The photographer called for a group shot. Chloe stood front and center, hands gently posed on her belly. Marcus stepped back from the photo. Afterward, he didn't say a word. He just slipped his phone from his pocket and began typing furiously. "What are you doing?" I asked under my breath. He looked up, his eyes serious. "Getting answers." I found Marcus 10 minutes later by the bar station, staring down at his phone. His jaw was tense, the muscle twitching at the side. A quiet tell he couldn't hide when something unsettled him. "What answers?" I asked, keeping my voice low. He glanced around, then showed me his screen. A text thread with one of his colleagues. "Marcus, you know Dr. Harmon from Mercy General?" Colleague. "Yeah, quiet guy. Retired 6 months ago." Marcus. "Would he be working as a private OB?" Colleague. "Doubt it." He left the field completely. I stared at the text. "So, what is he doing at Chloe's baby shower?" I whispered. Marcus looked at me then. Not smug. Not "I told you so." Just serious. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." I didn't want to believe it. Couldn't. But a part of me, the part I'd buried under layers of history and blind loyalty, was starting to stir. We were interrupted by Elliot, Chloe's husband, who approached with 2 glasses of sparkling cider. His smile was stiff, his eyes darting. "Marcus. Lauren. So glad you could make it." I forced a polite smile. "Everything looks beautiful. You two must have worked really hard." Elliot chuckled. "All Chloe. She's been planning this for months. Every single detail." He hesitated, then added, "Sometimes I think she cares more about the party than the baby." He said it lightly, like a joke. But Marcus didn't laugh. Neither did I. "She's excited," I offered weakly. Elliot's smile faded. There was something heavy in his eyes. Fatigue. Guilt. Maybe both. "Excuse me," he said, and slipped away before either of us could reply. I watched him head inside. Chloe followed a few moments later. And then I heard it, just barely, a voice from the hallway behind the patio doors. Marcus had drifted closer, as if by instinct. "She's starting to believe it." Elliot's voice murmured, "We need to move faster before it unravels." My breath caught. I looked at Marcus. His face was unreadable. "You heard that?" I asked. He nodded once. "She's starting to believe it." The words looped in my mind like a cracked recording. The baby, the bump, the nursery, the photographers, the brand sponsors, the curated perfection. What if it wasn't just a lie to others? What if Chloe was lying to herself? We left quietly, claiming a headache. Chloe pouted but didn't argue. I told her we'd do lunch soon. She kissed my cheek and held my hand for a beat too long, as if trying to memorize something. On the drive home, the silence between Marcus and me was different this time. Not tense. Not angry. Heavy. Fragile. "What are you thinking?" I finally asked. He didn't answer right away. "Do you remember when she told you the due date?" I blinked. "January, I think. Early January." "That was 7 months ago." I paused. "She hasn't grown." "Not really," he continued. "Her arms, her face, her posture. It's all unchanged. Pregnant women change, Lauren. They swell. They retain water. They slow down. They don't wear 4-inch heels at 30 weeks without even needing a chair." I looked out the window. The baby blanket I had knit was in the back seat, resting beside the untouched gift basket. "She never let me feel the baby kick," I said softly. "She always changed the subject. Or moved. Or joked." Marcus didn't speak. "So what now?" I asked. "You think she's what?" "Mentally unstable." He let out a slow breath. "I think something happened. I think there was a pregnancy. Maybe even a loss. And maybe she never really came back from that." I felt tears sting at the corners of my eyes. Tears I didn't want. Because if he was right, if this was all some desperate performance born of pain, then it meant she needed help. But it also meant she had been lying to everyone, including me. "I need to see it for myself," I whispered. "I need to know the truth." Marcus nodded. And just like that, I knew what I was going to do. The next morning, I sent Chloe a simple text. "Hey, I think I left my shawl at your place yesterday. Mind if I swing by to grab it?" It was a lie. There was no shawl. Just a growing knot in my stomach that wouldn't let go. Her response came 2 minutes later. Oh no. I'm heading into the city for a prenatal appointment. But Jess is home, she can let you in. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Perfect. Jessa, Chloe's younger sister, had always been a little too honest for her own good. Messy hair, oversized hoodies, and the kind of energy that said, I don't care about your curated Instagram life. If anyone would slip, it was her. I grabbed my keys, rehearsed the story in my head, and drove. As I pulled into Chloe and Elliot's quiet cul-de-sac, everything looked untouched. The banner was still up. The helium balloons had begun to droop. A frozen image of celebration, hollow now. Jessa answered the door with a half-eaten piece of toast in one hand and a mug in the other. Hey! Didn't know you were coming by, she said, surprised but not unfriendly. Left my shawl somewhere near the couch, I think. I smiled, stepping inside. Total scatterbrain. Yeah, it's all still kind of a mess in here. She gestured toward the living room. Help yourself. The decorations were half taken down. Tissue paper from open gifts spilled out of bags, and several unopened boxes sat along the wall. But something felt staged. Like it had been put back into chaos. The shower was beautiful, I said casually, scanning the room. Everything looked so well thought out. All Chloe, Jessa said, flopping onto the couch. She was intense about it. I drifted toward the dining area. That's when I saw it. A nearly full glass of red wine sitting beside a plate with the remnants of a steak dinner. I blinked. Is that from last night? I asked. Jessa followed my gaze and froze for a split second, just long enough to register. Oh. Yeah. Elliot's, I think. Chloe had something else. Something else. Not nothing. But not steak and red wine. The two things nearly every OB tells pregnant women to avoid. Mind if I check the nursery? I asked. In case I tossed the shawl up there when I was looking at all the cute stuff. Sure, she said quickly. I'll come with you. That was new. Yesterday, Chloe had led the tour. Today, Jessa was trying to control it. We climbed the stairs. The nursery looked exactly the same. Not lived in. Not used. Just displayed. Cribs still in plastic? I asked casually. She wants to wait until the last minute, Jessa replied too quickly. And the mattress? Still wrapped. The books were all untouched. The tags were still on the baby clothes. And the diaper bag? Pristine. With a faint price tag still dangling from one zipper pull. Then something caught my eye, a journal half hidden behind the glider chair. It looked old, worn at the edges, like it had been tucked away and forgotten. While Jessa rummaged through the closet pretending to help, I slipped it into my purse. Not up here, she called. Maybe by the coat rack? Probably. I smiled, heart pounding. Thanks for letting me look. Back in my car, I sat in silence. The journal sat in my lap like it had a pulse. I opened it. The handwriting was Chloe's. Flowing. Practiced, precise. My dearest daughter, though you are not yet in my arms, you are already in my soul. Every day I wait is a day closer to you. They say it's not real. That I'm not pregnant. But mothers know. Mothers always know. I flipped to the front page. The entry was dated 3 years ago, which confused me. Chloe had told me she lost the baby last year. But this journal started long before that. Was there another pregnancy? Or had the story begun long before anything real ever happened? 3. Not 7 months. Not last year. Some entries were soft, loving, dreamy. Others spiraled, full of panic, obsession, denial. The most recent one was just 2 weeks old. Soon they'll all believe. The donations are coming in. The last one will seal it. And then no one will ever question if you were real. They'll see you, feel you, know you. Even if I never hold you, you'll still be mine. My hands trembled as I closed the book. This wasn't grief. This wasn't delusion. This was something else entirely. I picked up my phone and dialed Marcus. I found something, I said. We were right. It's deeper than we thought. I was halfway back to my car, journal zipped inside my purse, when I heard it. Chloe's voice. Sharp. Clipped. Nothing like the warmth, lilting tone she used at the baby shower. I froze. Her voice was coming from the side of the house, through an open kitchen window I hadn't noticed earlier. I stepped behind the row of hydrangeas lining the path, heart pounding, and listened. I don't care what Marcus thinks, she snapped. It's almost done. Once the donation clears, we'll finish this. Finish what? Another event? A stage delivery photo? Or something worse, a final step to make the illusion permanent? Pause. Silence. A muffled voice on the other end, male. I said I'm not backing out now. Too many people believe it. We've come too far. My breath caught. Donation? Finish what? Another pause. Then her voice dropped low, almost bitter. She suspects. Lauren. She was watching me at the shower. I crouched lower behind the shrubs, gravel digging into my knees. If she asks questions, we'll say it's hormonal stress. She's overreacting. That always works. I pressed a hand over my mouth. That always works. Like it wasn't the first time. Like manipulation was a muscle she'd long since mastered. A door creaked open. Footsteps on gravel. I scrambled to my car, pretending to adjust my purse as I climbed inside. Chloe stepped out from the side gate, phone still at her ear, face calm again, camera ready. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did. Because as I backed out of the driveway, her eyes flicked up. Met mine. And she smiled. Not warm. Not guilty. Cold. A knowing smile. Like a magician catching the audience mid-trick. That evening I sat at the kitchen table while Marcus read through the journal, flipping page after page in silence. When he finished, he set it down gently, as if the weight of it might crack the surface of the table. This isn't just delusion, he said finally. It's calculated. She knew exactly what she was doing, I agreed. And now she thinks she can get away with it. Marcus sighed. If the donation she mentioned is real, and tied to the nonprofit, this isn't just personal. It could be fraud. You think she's using the pregnancy story to get funding? I asked, stunned by how quickly it all escalated. I've seen worse, Marcus said. Donors give more when they feel emotionally connected. Chloe knows that. And she's selling the perfect story, maternal health leader expecting her first child after years of silence? That's gold. I swallowed hard. What do we do? Marcus looked at me, not as a doctor, not as my husband, but as the one person still hoping this could be explained. You still want to give her a chance to explain, don't you? I didn't answer. Because I wasn't sure. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A message from Chloe. Saw you driving off. Did you find your shawl? Grinning face with sweat. I stared at it, wondering if that emoji was sarcasm or strategy. A minute later, another text came in. I need to talk to you. Alone. Can we meet tomorrow? I'll tell you everything. Then the final message. Clear Lake Cabin. Noon. Come alone. My stomach turned. The cabin. Her family's old lake house, quiet, secluded, off-grid. We'd spent summers there as teenagers, tanning on the dock and sneaking cheap vodka into Sprite cans. It had always been our safe place. And now it was where she wanted to meet. Alone. I told Marcus everything. He didn't try to stop me, but he made me promise to text when I arrived. And when I left. If anything feels off, you get out, he said. No matter what she says. She won't hurt me, I whispered, though I wasn't entirely sure anymore. That's not the only kind of danger, he replied. The next day I drove to Clear Lake. It was quiet. Still. The kind of place where time slows down and secrets have room to breathe. Chloe's white SUV was already parked under the carport. No balloons. No signs. No glow. Just stillness. I stepped out of the car and walked to the front porch. The wind rustled through the trees. The screen door creaked open before I could knock. Chloe stood there, pale and barefaced, hair unbrushed, her silk dress swapped for a sweatshirt and leggings. No belly. Just Chloe. Real, raw, and finally out of costume. You knew, she said softly. I nodded. Come in, she said. It's time. The cabin smelled like cedar and something faintly floral. Like an echo of what used to be a memory pressed into the wood. Chloe walked ahead of me into the living room, curling into the same oversized armchair we used to fight over on rainy summer days. Only now she didn't look like the girl I used to know. She looked hollow. You knew, she repeated. I sat down on the edge of the couch, leaving space between us. I saw the journal. And I heard you yesterday. Through the window. She closed her eyes. Of course you did. You always see more than I want you to. I didn't respond. Instead, I let the silence grow until she filled it. I wasn't lying. Not at first, she began, voice barely above a whisper. A year ago I was pregnant. 8 weeks in, Elliot and I were going to surprise everyone once we passed the first trimester. We even started picking names. She stared down at her hands, turning her wedding ring slowly. And then, I woke up bleeding. You never told me, I said, my voice gentler than I expected. I couldn't, she snapped, then softened. You had just launched your counseling program. Everyone was celebrating you. I didn't want to be the reason the group text turned dark. That was so Chloe, always burying pain in favor of appearances. So how did it turn into this? I asked. She gave a tired smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. I was scheduled to speak at a fundraiser for New Bloom, she said. Biggest one of the year. And I had a panic attack backstage. Couldn't breathe. Elliot found me in the bathroom floor hyperventilating. I told him I couldn't go out there and lie. And he said, then don't lie. Just tell them you're expecting. Say it's new. No one needs to know yet. At first he thought it was a one-time thing, just something to get me through the fundraiser. But once the donations started rolling in, he stopped questioning. We both did. I blinked. And you agreed? At first it was survival, she whispered. Then it became something else. The attention. The way people looked at me. Like I was sacred. Like I was inspiring. Donations doubled. Clinics called us for support. I told myself I was doing it for them, for the mothers we served. But you weren't, I said carefully. No, she admitted. I wasn't. I was doing it for me. Her voice cracked on that last word. Do you know what it's like to be the woman who saves everyone, but can't even carry a baby past 2 months? I felt useless. So I created someone who wasn't. The silence that followed felt dense, like the room itself was holding its breath. Why the donations? I asked. Why use the story to take money? We were behind. She admitted. COVID wiped out half our grants. The foundation was months from closing. And then the narrative changed. Suddenly I wasn't just a director. I was a mother. A face. A cause. She stood and walked to the window, her back to me. It worked. The Graves Foundation pledged $75,000. Hampton Healthcare offered a new mobile unit. The PR alone was enough to keep us afloat for another year. But it was all built on a lie, I said quietly. A lie that helped people, she shot back. A lie that used people, I corrected. She turned to face me, something desperate flickering in her eyes. You of all people should understand. You help people for a living. What's the harm if they believe in something even if it's not technically true? Because belief without truth is manipulation, Chloe. And you didn't just take their money. You took their grief. You took their pain and repackaged it into a fairy tale so you could stay relevant. Her eyes brimmed with tears. But she didn't look away. I didn't think it would go this far, she whispered. I just wanted to feel whole again. I stood slowly. And now I don't know who I am without the story. Then maybe it's time to find out. She walked me to the door barefoot, small. The confident woman at the baby shower was gone. In her place stood someone I wasn't sure I knew anymore. Are you going to report me? She asked as I reached for the handle. I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. 3 days passed before it hit the local news. Nonprofit director accused of faking pregnancy for donations. A screenshot of Chloe from the baby shower, glowing, smiling. Hand on her stomach, sat beneath the headline. Then came the details. Unverified pregnancy. Inflated donation claims. Misleading emotional narratives. They hadn't named me. But everyone close to her knew. The story broke online before it reached the evening news. Our group chats went silent. The comments didn't. Words like fraud, sociopath, dangerous flew through Facebook threads like wildfire. Others defended her, said it must be mental illness. Some even blamed the donors. Who gives money without checking facts? Marcus was called in to speak with hospital ethics. Dr. Harmon, the man at the shower, filed a statement clarifying he'd never treated Chloe and had no idea why he was invited. Marcus guessed she might have used his name to add credibility, maybe even copied an old email signature to fake an invitation. It was easy to assume authority when no one dared to question her. Elliot deactivated every account. Some said Elliot left town the next day. Others claimed he checked into a hotel under a different name. No one really knew, but I kept wondering whether he'd been complicit, or just a man in too deep too late. The foundation's board released a statement. Funds frozen. Programs paused. Investigations launched. Chloe disappeared. Phone off. No one answering the door. Even Jessa didn't know where she was or claimed she didn't. And then a week later I found the envelope. No stamp. Just my name scrawled in handwriting I recognized instantly, sitting on our porch beneath the welcome mat. I opened it in the kitchen, heart thudding. Lauren, I know you'll hate me for this. Maybe forever. But I needed you to know the whole truth, the part one couldn't say out loud. Not at the cabin. Not with you looking at me like I was both breaking and dangerous at the same time. The baby was real. So was the loss. But the rest? I built it. I built her. Because I couldn't survive without something to hold on to. I needed her more than I needed the truth. You've always been the strong one. The moral one. But I also know you carry things, quietly, tightly, and never let anyone see the cracks. Maybe that's why I wanted you to be the one who knew. Because you'd see me. Not the version I sold to the world. Just me. I don't expect forgiveness. I probably don't deserve it. But I hope someday. You'll remember the girl who braided your hair before dances, who drove 3 hours to pick you up after that awful breakup in college, who held your hand in the ER waiting room after your scare. That girl didn't lie. I promise she didn't. I miss her too. Chloe. I folded the letter once carefully and slid it into the back of my memory box. Behind an old photograph of us from high school, behind the tiny, half-knitted baby blanket I never finished. I didn't cry. I'd done enough of that. A month later I testified. Not in court, not yet, but in front of the foundation board. I told the truth. That Chloe had once been passionate, generous, magnetic. And that somewhere along the way, she got lost in a story she couldn't stop telling. A story she started to believe. I left out the journal. I left out the window. Not because I wanted to protect her, but because I knew she'd already torn down enough of herself. The final fallout came slowly. Charges were reduced after Chloe voluntarily entered psychiatric treatment. Restitution was required. Community service. The foundation was dissolved. The women it helped, they were transferred to other programs. No one forgot what happened. But no one could deny the work had once mattered. And me? I didn't go back to the cabin. I didn't reply to the letter. But sometimes when I pass the lavender aisle at the market or hear the opening chords of that jazz song Chloe loved, I think of the version of her I miss. Not the one who lied, but the one who needed so badly to be loved she convinced the world, and maybe even herself, that she already was. If you've ever had to let go of someone you once called family, not because you stopped caring, but because they stopped being who you knew, you're not alone. Some friendships don't end in betrayal. They end in quiet, invisible grief. And that kind of goodbye hurts the most.